It's time!
What's kicking, everybody? It is Tom back for another episode of Pickin' Fights. Keith should have his episode out a little bit later. We'll still have the blogs and all that good stuff for you. Just going solo this time. But there was a good amount of fights last night. We saw probably the birth or the recognition or the start of the rise to the top for Erin Blanchfield, going out there and submitting and proving a lot of people wrong, not necessarily me and Keith, because we had picked Erin Blanchfield to win the day after, that about getting announced. You have Jessica Andrade stepping in on short notice, and good for, Erin Blanchfield being able to go out there, get that one done. There was some other, interesting fights on the card, but overall, I would say that card was a little bit lackluster. I think this one might be a little bit better. Not as many big names on here, but definitely some recognizable names. Nikita Krylov, Ryan Spann, obviously headlining the card. And then, guys that you may have heard, André Muniz, famous for breaking Jacare Souza's arm. Brandon Allen, who's famous. I don't really know why Brandon Allen has such a huge following. I don't find him particularly like notorious or specifically really of a high quality, like super high quality fighter that everyone's like thinking like, oh, this guy's going to be the next guy. And but definitely a name, Downtown Maze is coming back out there, Augusto, Sakai. Now I'm basically just running down the entire list, but UFC Fight Night Krylov versus Spann is up this weekend, Saturday, February 25th, starts at 4 p.m. Eastern. Actually, I believe that's probably the main card. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. There is some further ado. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We really appreciate it. Definitely helps the channel, helps us keep doing what we like doing and bringing you stuff, and definitely upgrading the stream here and allow us to do things that going to be a little bit more fun, a little bit better, a little bit more popular. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Pickin Winners. All of that good stuff is down below. You got my PickinFightsTom. All that stuff is in the description as well. And, let us know what you think of our picks. Leave us a comment. We're in here. We're ready to chat. So if anyone is watching along, have any questions, have any picks for us, let us know. But now, without further ado, we're going into UFC Fight Night Krylov versus Spann. Let me go ahead and share a screen here. We are going to run with this one. So UFC Fight Night Krylov versus Spann. Let me make sure that the people can see me. Maybe the people don't want to see me. Either way, you're stuck with me. So starting with our prelim notables, and being that it's just me, I got to figure out how I'm going to make all of these graphics work. All right, starting off with our prelim notables, what I'm looking for here is actually going to be the first fight on the card. Joe Solecki taking on Carl Denton III. Carl Denton III is actually making his UFC debut, a heavy plus 400 underdog. Last time out, got the submission 4 months ago by rear naked choke outside of the UFC. So making that debut, and we know typically, UFC fighters making their debut not very successful. Usually you can see that, he's kind of got the Alex Bejeda type of war paint going on here, but getting a decision to Justin James a year ago, having 2 losses inside of the PFL, split decision there, and then getting a win by knockout. Not the biggest power guy, and even his most recent fight, not someone who's going to, blow you out of the water. Joe Solecki, most recent loss coming to, Jared Gordon in a split decision. Jared Gordon looked really good in that fight, being able to out-wrestle Joe Solecki, which is going to be Joe Solecki's bread and butter at 29 years old. He's approaching his peak here. He's going to be the longer fighter with Carl Denton coming out of America Top Team. So that he's going to have quite a bit of good training partners. But the reality of the situation is you're going up against Joe Solecki, who's a really, really strong wrestler. He's going to be the bigger guy, much longer guy, taller guy, probably even stronger guy as well. So, with the decision win he got over Alex De Silva, 21-3, not too long ago, 8 months. Take some time off, recalibrate, reload, come back in there. I'm looking for him to get this done, especially after wins over, guys like Savvy Vets of Jim Miller. I just think that, Austin Hubbard, rear naked choke. I really like Joe Solecki in this one. I think, it's his fight to lose, I guess, in that regard. Another one of the fights that I wanted to go over for the prelim notables And this is going to be my second individual pick here. It's a guy that we've talked about on the program a lot. It's going to be Jordan Levitt. Jordan Levitt taking on Victor Martinez here. Victor Martinez, it's a pretty even line. But the thing is Victor Martinez, I think, has had a little bit of suspect grappling, and we've seen Jordan Levitt be able to or weather the storm of some of the stronger strikers and be able to get that W on the ground. I mean, there were points in the Paddy the Baddy fight where, I really liked what Jordan Levitt was going for. And I always thought that he was a pretty solid grappler. Getting the split decision over Trey Ogden, Matt Sales with the inverted arm triangle, Claudio Puelles, he fought to a decision on. It wasn't his best performance, but also getting another KO, TKO slam against Matt Wyman. It's a little out of character for Jordan Levitt. I wouldn't expect to finish Jordan Levitt. Is a guy that goes out there and he's going to use the grappling and he's going to lay on you, and I think that's something that Victor Martinez doesn't necessarily have in spades. Coming in at 31 years old to make his UFC debut, he got a decision win over Jacob Rosales, 13-6, a little over a year and a half ago. So potentially coming in with a little bit of ring rust there. Obviously, you see the Fury belt around him, so and a lot of fights here that he's a stand-up striker typically by trade. So I like Jordan Levitt, the Monkey King, to go out there and get this one done. And then the other fights that I wanted to just talk about really quickly are going to be these two female fights. The first one, Haley Cowan over Eileen Perez. Fiona Perez, 28 years old, plus 135, coming back for the underdog. Haley Cowan, 155. I know she got submitted by Stephanie Egger in her most recent timeout. She got a KO outside of the UFC over Stephanie Brigarik, and another TKO, if you want to count that, over a 0-1-2 fighter. So, not the best competition for the Argentinian fighter fighting out of MMA Masters. She's going to be going up against a much bigger woman in Haley Cowan, 5'8", 69.3. Usually I don't see 0.3. Usually they try to go by half inches here, but fighting out of Blitzsport MMA, Haley Cowan has went out there and she's been able to grind to some decisions. She's shown off her grappling game. She's shown that she can get finishes, but ultimately I think this one is going to go the distance, and that's exactly what I'm going to take it as. I think Cowan is going to win, but I think the safer play is that this fight goes to decision. I'm just seeing not a ton of finishing ability from either of these women at the UFC level. Speaking of not a ton of finishing ability, I'm going to also be going with this fight to go the distance. You could probably parlay both of these women's fights not go the distance. I would take Joe Selecki and Jordan Levitt, combine all four of those, and you're going to have yourself a pretty solid prelim parlay. Feel free to combine only three of those or maybe make it a round robin, but that's what I would be looking at for the prelims. I'm sure there are other good bets out there. If you have them, let us know. Like I said, we're on the prelim notables right now. If you have other good bets, let me know. And throw them in the chat, put them in the comments. We want to hear what you think of our picks. We want to see if you guys got any picks. Make it a very collaborative thing we got going on here. And before we move up onto the main card, just want to ask everybody one more time: like, comment, subscribe. We really do appreciate it. And allows us to keep bringing videos and increasing the quality of those videos that we bring you. So without further ado, I need to stop saying that. Let's head up to the main card. All right. First fight on the main card, we are going with Erick Gonzalez taking on Trevor Peek. This is a interesting fight, and I can't say I fully understand why we're starting off the main card with this one. Because at the end of the day, you got two fighters that are going to be relatively new into the UFC. Well, Trevor Peek is new into the UFC. I really liked his Contender Series debut against Malik Lewis, where in the first round, he went out there and he just basically took a beating and put his chin on display, that he can go out there, he could get a lot of shots landed on him, and he's going to keep coming and eventually finding that finish in the second round against Malik Lewis, 2 ground and pound. I like Trevor Peek. He throws with a lot of power. He throws really short combinations, and when he lands, you definitely hear it. He's a stocky fighter. He fights from a low stance, and when he throws, he just throws with everything. And when he lands, you better not be in the way. Erick Gonzalez, and he also has a fantastic chin. He's quick. He's going to be a little bit of the smaller guy in this fight against Erick Gonzalez, but I think he's going to be the stronger fighter. Erick Gonzalez not on a great stretch here, 14-7. He's going to be the 150 underdog here. Last fight out, getting submitted by Terrence McKinney. He landed one good shot on Terrence McKinney, but it was probably McKinney's one of his best performances, actually. He went out there and he was landing solidly. Gonzalez gave one, I think it was like a right hand that snapped McKinney's head back, and McKinney just kind of wiped it off and was right back to it. Landed a couple good shots, ended up getting Gonzalez, and I think it was like a standing rear naked choke. And Gonzalez was about to, it looked like he was saying he was okay, and then eventually was just like, and then eventually tapped. So, Erick Gonzalez, I haven't seen a lot of things from him that would make me believe that he'd be able to withstand some of those big, powerful, fast shots that are going to be coming back from Trevor Peek. Jim Miller knocked him out in the second round. He did take that fight on short notice, so we'll see how he looks here with a fight with a little bit more time. But fighting out of Fight Science MMA, he's going to have the longer reach here, but I just think Trevor Peek's going to be able to get in there and land those big shots. And Erick Gonzalez, if against Terrence McKinney, we know he's a really solid grappler, but he didn't really have much for McKinney on the ground either. So I'm going to go with Trevor Peek, and I'm going to feel pretty solid about that one in this fight, even though we typically try to stay away from UFC fighters making their debut. I'm going to go with Trevor Peek in this one. Moving up the card, we have Mike Malott, proper Mike Malott, taking on Yohan Lainesse in a 170-pound bout. Mike Malott is a guy who has a really interesting career, House of Champions MMA, over at Team Alpha Male as well. I think at House of Champions, he might be the grappling coach and the striking coach. Definitely a strong striker, knocking out Mickey Gall in his most recent fight. But his fights just have such a long time between them. And I'm not 100% sure why that is, but, a lot of, you see, had a loss to Hakeem Dawodu in 2014, came back the following year, had a draw with Thomas Diagne, 2017, so another 2 years off, he gets a win, 2 canceled bouts, comes back in 2019, split decision. That was a grappling bout. 2020 was his first fight back from 2017, so taking 3 years off, gets the win there, moves on to the Contender Series, submits Shimon Schmitrowski, and then taking, another 6 months off, Mickey Gall, and now he's looking really to start getting back into it, and he kind of has to at this point, being 31 years old. It's time to turn on the gas for Mike Malott, especially with all the skills that he has. He's going to be a moderate favorite here. And like I said, he looked good in that Mickey Gall fight. A lot of the commentators were saying that, Mike Malott was going to have the advantage when it comes to striking, but Mickey Gall would have the advantage on the ground. But Mike Malott didn't look like he was going to be really even forfeiting that much skill at all when it comes to the ground. So I like Mike Malott here. You have Yohan Lainesse. I watch a lot of Yohan Lainesse's fights. Wants to compare himself, and because he's fighting out of like Quebec and he's got that French Quebec style of like accent, he compares himself to, not necessarily compares himself, but definitely wants to be like the next GSP, and kind of bears the weight of that type of expectation on him. He's a wild fighter. He throws a lot of kicks. He throws punches. Obviously, he throws kicks and punches. He's an MMA fighter, but his kicks, he doesn't really parry them together. A lot of times he's going to throw, one shot, he'll throw a 1-2, he'll throw a spinning kick. He's wild. He has a decent amount of power, but not a ton. The fight against Darian Weeks went back and forth, and ultimately it looked like Darian Weeks was winning a lot of the ring generalship, especially as the fight went on. And Lainesse, I saw a lot of opportunities for Lainesse to go out and get that fight and really make it, solid for him, and for whatever reason he just didn't do that. He's a very patient fighter, I guess would be the politically correct or the proper or the nice way of putting it. I think Mike Malott's going to be able to get in there. I think he's going to be able to land on him. Only giving up 3 inches, but Mike Malott is extremely technical, and he also got a very, very good chin on him. Only 8-1. The last fight against Gabe Green for Yohan Lainesse, he actually hurt Gabe Green in the first, and then in the second round, or later in the second round, Gabe Green actually came back, hurt him, and finished him with a ground and pound up against the fence in the second round there. So not that he necessarily has chin issues per se. It's just that, he's got this body punch and cage fury finish. He's got a 6-0 on the Contender Series win over Justin Burlinson. He's got the loss to Gabe Green in his debut, and then the split decision against Darian Weeks. It really just boils down to what their most recent performances looked like for me, and I think Mike Malott just was a lot more impressive in his most recent performance. He also had a grappling bout with Trevor Giles fairly recently, in which he looked good there as well, and winning that. So I like Mike Malott. I like that he's a coach, and a lot of times when you're coaching things, it makes it click better in your head. So I'm going to go with proper Mike Malott. He trains with a lot of guys who are high quality and high caliber. And I just don't know if Yohan Lainesse is getting the same level of looks, same caliber of training partners, at Technobox and Brazilian Top Team in Canada. So with that being said, I'm going with Mike Malott in this bout versus Yohan Lainesse. Moving up to the only female fight on the main card here, Tatiana Suarez taking on Montana De La Rosa. As you can see the lines here, Tatiana Suarez minus 750. She's a huge favorite, but here's the cause for pause is that she has not fought in, I think it's 3 years and 8 months. You got that right there. Her most recent fight is against Nina Nunes, who I believe had a child and fought 2 or 3, maybe even 4 times in that span. Tatiana Suarez, 8-0. She has fantastic grappling ability. Not even that bad stand-up either, but it's no question what she's going to do. She's going to go in there, land a couple punches to kind of disguise that takedown, and then get you to the ground. And she's going to want to finish you there. The Carla Esparza ground and pound win 4.5 years ago. Geez, I was still in college back then. Alexa Grasso submitted her with a rear naked choke. I think Tatiana Suarez, you're also looking at 4 years ago. So she's 27, 28, 5 years ago. So it's going to be really interesting to see where she's at now, coming up from 114 to coming up to 125 to fight Montana De La Rosa. But the thing about Montana De La Rosa, she is a bigger girl. She's decently well-rounded, but she also is a grappler, and she's want to take you to the ground and kind of smush you. And I just don't think she's going to be able to do that against Tatiana Suarez, even up at 125 pounds. I know that's only 10 pounds, and if anyone's had time to put it, she's basically taken, a John Jones style reprieve to move up 10 pounds. So I like Tatiana Suarez in this one. I don't know. I would feel a little, I guess I would want to take her, but I feel like that's a huge price tag for someone who's been out for 3 months or 3 years. So that gives me a little cause for pause, as I say. But people on Tapology are going with her pretty handily. I don't know if I'll probably stay away from this just because I think money-wise, there's not a lot there to make me, we haven't seen her in 3.5 years, and a lot can change in that moving up a weight class. There's a couple different variables here. So that's going to give me, just a little bit of cause for concern when I'm trying to bet this fight. So I'm going to let this one go, but the pick is going to be Tatiana Suarez. All right, moving up, we got the interesting fight of Augusto Sakai on a 4-fight skid, 1-4 over his last 5 against Dontel Mays, the Lord King. This one we have is a even fight. When you look at Augusto Sakai has got a strong build. You can tell that he's got muscle there, but it's covered by a decent amount of fat and flubber, which is just not what I love to see when we're talking about UFC heavyweights. I know that a lot of them have it, but this new era of heavyweight, it just seems like they are going to be guys who look a little bit more like athletes than maybe traditionally. Augusto Sakai hasn't lost to bad people. Alistair Overeem, which isn't a great loss considering the Alistair Overeem version that he fought, but Jairzinho Rosenstrike knocked him out. We're looking at, a little for you. So maybe about 7 months, 8 months, 9 months between these two knockouts. And then he comes back 6 months later, gets knocked out by Tai Tuivasa. And that one, he got knocked out cold, like totally limp. And then, 6 months after that, or 7 months after that, comes back, fights Sergey Spivak, and, gets ground and pound, takes a lot of damage to his head there against Sergey Spivak, and then now coming back another 6 months later. It's like he's almost getting knocked out every 6 months, and you don't really like to see that for, just a person's general brain cells, but also you don't like to see that for their longevity in a fight. So I'd be concerned about that for Augusto Sakai. He's a guy who's going to move around on the outside. He's going to land a couple shots. He's going to try and maybe push you up against the cage. I think Dontel Mays having a 4-inch reach advantage, going to be the far bigger guy, the stronger guy. He's going to be coming in. He's going to look more physically imposing, I think would be the polite way to say it. Dontel Mays, he got a loss, I believe it was to Hamdi Abdelwahab, and then Hamdi turned around and or a split decision loss to Hamdi Abdelwahab, who is a Olympic caliber grappler, but ended up popping 4 steroids, and you can almost tell when you see the Hamdi Abdelwahab picture, and I'll pull it up on Tapology here, but when you see that picture of Hamdi here, guy looks jacked, and that was not the version of Hamdi that we saw inside of the UFC. So not a giant surprise that he's going to pop 4 steroids. So Hamdi Delwahab, he fought a pretty good decision, showed that he, had some endurance and ability to go. I like the way Dontel Mays, like even in the second round, is going to go out there and he's going to throw some wild stuff. He's going to throw some flying knees, going to throw some kicks. He's going to charge an opponent, throw some powerful shots. And I just think Augusto Sakai at this point, with the history that we've seen of him, I just don't trust his chin to be able to withstand if Dontel Mays lands 1, 2, or 3 shots. He's wild, and Augusto Sakai is just going to move around on the outside. I even moving away from shots like with Jairzinho Rosenstrike is when he was able to get popped and fall. So with all of that being said, I'm going to side with Dontel Mays here. I know it's an even fight. A lot of people are going with Sakai by decision. That could definitely happen, especially going into like the third round. But I just think both of these guys, if it gets to the third round, it's not going to be that exciting. I don't think we're going to see a lot of the exciting, flashy style of fighting from Dontel Mays as the fight goes on. But in the first round and the second round, I think you can't trust Sakai's chin at this point. And Dontel Mays, no matter what you want to say about, his last few fights, Josh Parisian, not the best quality of opponent, but getting him down and getting the elbow from Crucifix is showing that, he's got that power and he's got that ability to be, at least somewhat well-rounded. Again, not great to sit, not great competition. Rook Martinez, and the Rodrigo Nascimento, he got submitted by him, and submission by heel hook by Cyril Gahn. But at the end of the day, Dontel Mays' losses don't really look in age too badly, especially considering against a guy like Augusto Sakai, who's not going to go out there and you're not going to be expecting him to submit you. So for all of those reasons, I'm going to lean Dontel Mays. I'm going to take Dontel Mays to get this one done. I would take him by finish. I just don't trust Augusto Sakai's chin, and that's really where it boils down to. The co-main event of UFC Fight Night, Krylov versus Spann, is going to be André Muniz is taking on Brendan Allen at 185 pounds. Both of these guys are grapplers by trade. André Muniz, I've really liked where his striking has developed to. He, throws some really good punches, so some good leg kicks. He looks very long when he's standing, and you can see that 6'1" with a 78-inch reach. Brendan Allen's 6'2" with a 75-inch reach. So I like André Muniz's stand-up ability. Brendan Allen is a pretty basic stand-up, and he's going to use 1 and 2s, try to get in on you and try to take you down. He's a very submission style of grappler, and so is André Muniz, but André Muniz, I think, is just more powerful. When you look at his build, he's long, but extremely strong, very cut. He could grapple for days. He could grapple for an hour if you want. You look back at his fight with Uriah Hall, and he basically just bullied Uriah Hall for everything other than like the last 15 seconds of the second round, where Uriah Hall was able to reverse something and land some big shots. And then André Muniz, what I really like about him is his IQ, that he's like, okay, well, typically he likes to go for arm bars and lock up limbs. Whenever he was doing that, Uriah Hall was getting out, reversing the position, and landing big shots. So I like that André Muniz, instead of sticking to a game plan, was able to adapt and say, okay, I'm just going to hold you. I'm going to threaten with a choke. I'm going to beat you up, and I'm going to just show that, like, hey, listen, I am a superior fighter to you. He's done that a lot. Erick Anders, like I said, some submission via armbar. He likes to go for those arm bars. Inverted armbar against, Jacare Souza, in which actually he broke his bicep bone. I'm not sure what it's called, but you get the point. And another armbar against Bartosz Fabianski, and his only non-submission win, I guess, outside of Uriah Hall in the last 5 is against Antonio Arroyo. So Brendan Allen definitely has some really solid grappling and grappling defense, but when I was watching his fight against Krzysztof Jotko, obviously he got the win there. But looking against Chris Curtis, he found himself in some bad situations against Chris Curtis, which isn't typically known for his grappling. And especially even with Jacob Malkoun. Jacob Malkoun is another strong grappler. Brendan Allen won that fight 29-28, unanimous decision. But, it was a very close fight, and it wasn't clear by any means. And I think ultimately, we just found Jacob Malkoun wasn't throwing up the amount of submissions and would sometimes find himself reversed. And end up on the bottom and finished a couple of rounds on the bottom. I think it was the second and the third he finished on the bottom, or maybe the first and the third, which ended up swinging it in Brendan Allen's way. But if you watch like every bit of that fight, and it's like from the first minute all the way to like 4 minutes and 30 seconds, if you only watch that part, you probably would have given it to Jacob Malkoun. So with that being said, I don't think André Muniz is going to find himself getting reversed as much as Jacob Malkoun did. I think he's more offensively sound when it comes to grappling, and once he gets on top, it's really, really hard to reverse that. So it's going to be a really good fight. I don't think there's going to be a case where two grapplers are going to basically try and counter each other out. I think we're going to definitely see some grappling exchanges. André Muniz, I'm going to go with him on the striking side of things, and I'm also going to go with him on the grappling side of things. So with all that being said, I'm going with André Muniz here over Brendan Allen. And then finally, moving up to the main event, we have Nikita Krylov taking on Ryan Superman Spann. And, I went back and forth on this one because Nikita Krylov sometimes can get his chin caught. He can leave his chin out there, and he can stumble. Specifically talking about when he fought Volkan Oezdemir in the first round of that, he was definitely getting clocked, but was able to come back and outpace, out hustle, and outland Volkan Oezdemir. That's one thing I really like about Nikita Krylov. He has a very good gas tank, especially when he gets tired. And I know that may sound like a oxymoron, but when he gets tired, he just pushes through, and that shows how hard he trains. Coming from a mining family, the miner is his nickname. It shows that he just, no matter what, is going to go out there and continue to fight and push, even well beyond what he what maybe you may think is possible at that point. Ryan Spann, he's got a couple good wins recently, but you're knocking out Dominic Reyes, who's just never going to be the same after he got that spinning elbow from Yuri Prochazka. Just never going to be the same. Got knocked out in the first round. And listen, Superman Spann, since he's been working with Saif Saud at Fortis MMA, we've seen a big improvement in him, but we've also not seen great quality of competition. He submitted Jan Cutelaba, but we know Jan Cutelaba is a guy who traditionally can get himself into bad positions even when he's winning the fight. So that's going to be a little bit, I don't want to say it's like a question mark on Ryan Spann, but I mean, I don't want to say that fight is a question mark for Ryan Spann and his ability. But, he wasn't doing that well. He wasn't winning against Jan Cutelaba. He happened to just catch Jan Cutelaba because Ion finds himself, he's probably one of the lowest IQ fighters, just to put it bluntly. He likes to go out there, and I guess similar to Michael Chandler in that regard, he likes to go out there and put on a fun fight, and he may get caught up in what's going on and end up, finding himself in a bad position and having to tap out like he did to Ryan Spann. But when Ryan Spann's up against a guy like Anthony Smith, Anthony Smith shows his dominance there. Ryan Spann's good on the ground. He's good standing. He's got good power. But ultimately, I think Nikita Krylov can negate the ground game. And Nikita Krylov, it's not like he doesn't have a ground game of his own. He's got some power, and he's just a little bit more of the technical fighter. I like his pressure. And I think as the fight goes long, you're going to see more and more Nikita Krylov come out. He's got a 2.5, 3.5 inch reach disadvantage, or maybe my math's off. I think it's 4-inch reach advantage. Ryan Spann being one of the bigger 205 pounders, but I think that's going to be all right for Nikita Krylov. Like I said, his two losses are come against Magomed Ankalaev, in which he looked pretty good in that fight, and he got submitted by Paul Craig, and a lot of people are going to get submitted by Paul Craig, and he looked good in that fight as well. I don't think Ryan Spann is going to offer and I know Ryan Spann is not going to offer the same amount of submission, offensive grappling that Paul Craig is going to do. I think on the feet, Nikita Krylov, as long as he can avoid the right hand of Ryan Spann, and it's really hard to say exactly how bad that right hand, or how good, should I say, that right hand of Ryan Spann is. He knocked out Misha Serkadov, but we've seen a lot of people knock out Misha Serkadov. We've seen, him submit Ion Cutelaba, and we've seen a lot of people submit or finish Ion Cutelaba because he puts himself in bad situations even when he's winning the fight. And then, against Dominic Reyes, like I said, it's concerning to see Dominic Reyes fighting still, especially when it's looking like, almost anything can knock him out. I mean, that spinning elbow that he took from Yuri Prochazka is basically a career ender, especially if you go and you look at what type of injuries he sustained. It's concerning. So for Ryan Spann, we know that he has power, but it's hard to judge exactly how much power is going to be coming back. And Volkan Oezdemir landed Nikita Krylov with a bunch of really good shots to start that fight. And I think, Nikita wore it well, and he changed it up, and he had good fight IQ, and he throws good leg kicks. He throws good punches, good timing on that. He has good combinations, and he kind of throws from different angles. And the other thing I like about Nikita Krylov, he's hard to hit. His head's never moving forward, never staying in the same spot. Some people you'll see kind of plot forward like this, maybe a little bit like Ryan Spann. Nikita Krylov is always, it almost looks like he's very wobbled with his striking style, because he's always kind of like moving around, and his head's, up and down. And it's a very interesting style. So for that, I think Ryan Spann is probably going to have a harder time hitting Nikita. And when he does hit him, I don't think Nikita's going to go out right away because he's shown a really good chin historically. So with all that being said, I'm going to go with Nikita Krylov, the minor, to get it done over Ryan Superman Spann. Looking down, Tapology is pretty split on this one. 55% of the 644 votes are on Nikita Krylov. A lot of people are taking this one to go to be finished. I am not as confident. I think I would take Nikita Krylov, especially at minus 160. You could just take him money line, and I would feel comfortable with that. But like I said, I don't think Nikita Krylov is going to finish Ryan Spann. Listen, Ryan Spann could also, both of these guys could choke each other out. Both of these guys could knock each other out. And I think for that reason, it's going to negate both of that. I think if anyone's going to get a win by finish, it's probably going to actually be Ryan Spann landing that right hand on Nikita Krylov. Because as much as Nikita Krylov has really good head movement and kind of quirky stance, he can sometimes still find himself getting clocked, like I said, in the first round against Volkan Oezdemir. He kind of just charges in with reckless abandon, almost forcing the flow state. It seemed like he was just like kind of almost too relaxed, forcing it, keeping his head high, and he's getting popped. So if he could fix that, I think it's all going to sway in his favor. But Nikita Krylov is one of those guys that I think is going to see himself surge to the top of the division. And Ryan Spann, it's going to be interesting. Working with Saif Saud, obviously an improvement. We've seen in his performances, but again, it's not the highest level of competition. So it's really kind of a fight where we're going to flesh out really is Ryan Superman Spann, this new version of him. Who is he and what is he good at? So with that being said, Nikita Krylov over Ryan Spann is what my pick is going to be. And we're time for the pick rundown. All right, so for the pick rundown, if I go out into the main fight card here, before we go to the rundown, I just want to say to everyone who was watching, thanks so much for watching and coming out and checking us out and supporting us. We're making those YouTube Reels and Instagram Reels to put out our pick rundown. So this will be basically turned into a rundown a little bit later in the week. And, would love if you watched. We turn all of these individual, we have the one big video, and then we make each individual fight into individual segments if you just want to watch that one, or we put the timestamps in the description so you can go and you can skip around and get all the analysis that you're looking for. If you just want the straight picks, boom, the Reels is where you want to go. But we appreciate all the love and support. Last week we got almost at 800 views across all of the videos, so really would like to break 1,000 as soon as possible. So if everyone can like, comment, subscribe, share the video, be a friend, tell a friend, we really do appreciate it. And while you're doing that, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at PickinFights, at PickinWinners. My handle is below PickinFightsTom. So, we really appreciate it. And, having fun doing this. And next week we'll be back with Keith, and make sure you keep an eye out for Keith coming with his picks later today. So without further ado, let's get into the pick rundown. So on the early prelims, I am going with Joe Selecki to get the win over Carl Denton III. I am going with Haley Cowan and Aline Perez going to decision. I am taking Jordan Levitt to get the victory over Victor Martinez, and I'm taking Gabriela Fernandez and Jasmine Jasudavicius to get the win. Or I'm sorry, not taking them to get the win. I'm taking Gabriela Fernandez and Jasmine Jasudavicius to go to decision. On the main card, I'm going with Erick Gonzalez over Trevor Peek. Just kidding. No, I'm not. I'm going with Trevor Peek over Erick Gonzalez. I'm going with Mike Malott over Yohan Lainesse. I'm going with Tatiana Suarez over Montana De La Rosa. I'm going with Dontel Mays over Augusto Sakai. André Muniz is going to show off his superior grappling against Brendan Allen, who is not a bad grappler in and of himself. And I'm also going to go with Nikita Krylov to get the win over Ryan Superman Spann in UFC Fight Night, Krylov versus Spann. Thank you everyone so much for watching. We will be back next week, and make sure you keep an eye out for all the videos dropping later this week. And like I said, follow us on Twitter and feel free to leave anything in the comments. Thanks so much. Enjoy your Sunday.